My name is Zara Jefferson, and I'm 34 years old on the worst day of my life. I sat in that ice-cold courtroom watching my husband Ethan demand everything. Our house, our savings, full custody of our daughter, Zendaya. The judge was about to rule in his favor when suddenly a small voice cut through the silence. "Your Honor," my 10-year-old daughter said, her voice trembling but clear. "May I show you something that Mom doesn't know about?" The judge nodded. My heart stopped. What could Zendaya possibly know that I didn't? What secret had my baby been keeping from me? She stepped forward, pulled out her phone, and pressed play. The moment that video started playing on those courtroom monitors, the entire room froze in complete silence. What appeared on that screen didn't just shock the judge. It destroyed my husband's lies and exposed a betrayal so cruel, so calculated, so evil that I still can't believe it happened to me. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning, because you need to understand how a man I loved, a man I trusted with my whole heart, turned into the monster who tried to take everything from me. Before I continue, please drop a comment telling us which state or city you're from. I want to know where my story is reaching you today. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. What I'm about to share with you is the hardest story I've ever had to tell. It's about love and lies, about being a mother and a wife, about thinking you know someone and discovering you never really did. This is about the day everything I thought was true came crashing down, and how my daughter, my sweet, brilliant baby girl, saved us both. So settle in, get comfortable, because this is going to take a minute, and trust me, you're going to want to hear every single detail. Let's go back to where it all started. I met Ethan 12 years ago at a cookout in my cousin Malcolm's backyard. It was one of those perfect summer days where the sky is so blue it almost hurts to look at, and the air smells like charcoal and somebody's mama's barbecue sauce. Music was playing, old school R&B that made everybody's hips move without even thinking about it. And I was standing by the drink table trying to decide between lemonade and sweet tea when this man walked up beside me. "Both," he said, grinning. "Life's too short to choose." I looked up at him, and Lord, help me, this man was fine. Tall, dark skin that gleamed in the sunlight, a smile that made his whole face light up. But it wasn't just that. It was the way he looked at me. Like I was the only person in that entire backyard. "Ethan," he said, holding out his hand. "Zara," I said, taking it. His hand was warm and strong, and when he didn't let go right away, I didn't pull away either. We talked for 3 hours that day. About everything. About nothing. He made me laugh so hard I had tears running down my face. He asked me real questions, not that surface stuff people ask when they're just trying to fill silence. He wanted to know what I was passionate about, what made me angry, what I dreamed about when I let myself really dream. By the time the sun started setting, turning the sky all pink and gold, I knew I was in trouble. The good kind of trouble, I thought. I was so wrong. We dated for 2 years before he proposed. 2 years of him showing up at my apartment with flowers for no reason. 2 years of him meeting my family and charming every last one of them, especially my mama. 2 years of him talking about our future like it was something real and solid and beautiful. He proposed at the same park where we'd had our first official date. Got down on one knee right there by the lake, with the ducks watching and the sunset painting everything golden, and asked me to be his wife. I said yes before he even finished asking. We got married 6 months later. Small ceremony, just family and close friends, in my mama's church. I wore my grandmother's pearls and carried white roses. And when Ethan looked at me walking down that aisle, I swear I saw tears in his eyes. "I'm going to love you forever," he whispered when we said our vows. "I promise you that, Zara, forever." I believed him. God, I believed him. Zendaya came along 2 years after we got married. The pregnancy wasn't easy. I was sick all the time, couldn't keep anything down, and there were complications that had the doctors worried. But Ethan was there through all of it, holding my hair back when I was throwing up, rubbing my feet when they swelled up like balloons, driving me to every single appointment, even the ones that were just routine checkups. When Zendaya finally arrived, 7 pounds, 3 ounces of perfect, beautiful baby girl, Ethan cried. Like, really cried. Stood there holding our daughter with tears streaming down his face, looking at her like she was the most precious thing in the entire world. We made her, he kept saying. Zara, we made her. And I thought, this is it. This is what happiness looks like. This is what I've been waiting for my whole life. Those first few years were good. I mean, they were hard. Any parent will tell you babies don't come with instruction manuals, and sleep becomes this mythical thing you used to have. But they were good. We were a team. We took turns with the night feedings. We laughed at Zendaya's first attempts to crawl, to walk, to say our names. We took 1,000,000 pictures that will probably embarrass her when she's older. We were a family, or at least I thought we were. The first time I noticed something was off, Zendaya was about 7 years old. Ethan started working late, like really late, coming home at 9, 10, sometimes 11 at night, smelling like stress and saying he was drowning in this big project at work. He worked in commercial real estate, and I knew the job could be demanding. So I didn't question it. I just made sure there was a plate waiting for him when he got home, asked him about his day, tried to be understanding. But then the late nights turned into weekends. Business dinners that ran long. Conferences out of town. His phone was always buzzing with work emergencies that he had to step out of the room to handle. And when he was home, he wasn't really there. You know what I mean? Like his body was sitting on the couch next to me, but his mind was somewhere else entirely. I'd be telling him about something Zendaya did at school or asking him what he thought about repainting the kitchen, and he'd just be staring at his phone, barely listening. Ethan, I'd say, did you hear me? Yeah. He'd say, not looking up. That sounds fine. Except I knew he hadn't heard a word. I tried to talk to him about it, multiple times. Baby, I feel like we're not connecting anymore, I said one night after Zendaya had gone to bed. Like we're in the same house, but we're not really together. He sighed, this deep, frustrated sigh like I was bothering him with something trivial. Zara, I'm working my ass off to provide for this family. He said, I'm trying to move up, make more money so we can have a better life. Can you just be supportive instead of always complaining? That stung, because I wasn't complaining. I was trying to tell him I missed him. I missed us. But I swallowed it, told myself he was right, he was working hard, I should be more understanding. So I backed off, stopped bringing it up, started spending more time focusing on Zendaya, on my own job as an administrative coordinator at a nonprofit, on keeping the house running smooth. I became one of those women who makes everything work while her husband is off doing whatever. And I told myself it was fine. It wasn't fine. My best friend Samantha could see it. She could always see through my bullshit. We were having lunch one Saturday. Ethan was at another work thing, and she just looked at me across the table and said, Girl, when are you going to stop lying to yourself? What are you talking about? I said, stabbing at my salad. About Ethan. About whatever's going on with him. You think I can't see you shrinking? You think I don't notice how you light up your whole face when you talk about Zendaya, but get all flat when you mention your husband? I put down my fork. Sam, I'm not trying to be in your business, she said, reaching across to grab my hand. But you're my sister, and I can see you're not happy. And life is too damn short to be unhappy with somebody who's supposed to be your partner. I wanted to argue with her, wanted to defend Ethan, defend my marriage, defend all the choices I'd made. But sitting there in that restaurant with the afternoon sun coming through the windows and Samantha looking at me with those knowing eyes, I couldn't lie. "I don't know what to do," I whispered. "You figure out what's really going on," she said, "and then you decide if you can live with it." If you're listening to this and you're feeling something similar, if you're recognizing your own story in mine, please hit that subscribe button. Share this with someone who might need to hear it, because what I'm about to tell you next, it gets darker before it gets light. And sometimes we need to know we're not alone in the dark. 3 months before that courtroom hearing, I found out, not because I was snooping, not because I was looking for something, because life has this way of revealing the truth when you least expect it. It was a Thursday afternoon. I'd left work early because I wasn't feeling well. One of those headaches that starts behind your eyes and spreads until your whole skull feels like it's in a vice. I just wanted to go home, take some medicine, and lie down in a dark room. I pulled into our driveway around 2:30. Ethan's car wasn't there, which was normal for that time of day. I let myself in through the front door, dropped my purse on the hall table, kicked off my shoes. And then I heard it. Laughter. Coming from upstairs. A woman's laughter, light and flirty, and then Ethan's voice, low and intimate in a way I hadn't heard directed at me in years. My blood went cold. I stood there in my own foyer, in my own house, and I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. My brain was screaming at me to go upstairs, to see what was happening, but my body was frozen. Then I heard footsteps. The bedroom door opening. I moved fast, ducked into the coat closet. Can you believe that? Hiding in my own damn house. And pulled the door almost closed, leaving just a crack to see through. Ethan came down the stairs first, then her. She was young. Couldn't have been more than 25. Pretty, with her hair done up nice, and wearing a dress that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. She was laughing at something he said, touching his arm, looking up at him with stars in her eyes. The way I used to look at him. They walked right past the closet, so close I could smell her perfume, so close I could see the lipstick on Ethan's collar. "When can I see you again?" she asked, and her voice was all breathy and hopeful. "Tomorrow," Ethan said, opening the front door for her. "I'll tell Zara I have a late meeting." They kissed, right there in my doorway. A long, deep kiss that made me want to vomit. Then she left, and Ethan checked his phone, straightened his shirt, and walked toward the kitchen like nothing had happened. I stayed in that closet for 10 minutes after he left the house. Just stayed there in the dark, surrounded by coats and shoes, trying to remember how to breathe. I didn't confront him. I know. You're probably thinking, why didn't you just come out swinging? Why didn't you throw his stuff out on the lawn, change the locks, call up everybody we know, and tell them what a cheating piece of trash he was? Because I had Zendaya to think about. Because I needed to be smart about this. Because something in my gut told me this was bigger than just an affair. So I played it cool. When Ethan came home that evening, I acted normal, asked about his day, served dinner, helped Zendaya with her homework while he watched TV. And I started paying attention, really paying attention. The next 2 weeks, I became a detective in my own life. I noticed things I'd been too trusting, too stupid to notice before, like how Ethan's late meetings always seemed to happen on Tuesdays and Thursdays, like how he'd started showering as soon as he got home, even if it was barely 6 o'clock, like how our bank statements showed cash withdrawals I couldn't account for. I started checking his credit card bills, found charges for restaurants we'd never been to together, hotels in the city where we lived. Why would he need a hotel in the city where we had a house? I found receipts, jewelry I'd never received, flowers I'd never gotten. And then one day, while he was in the shower, his phone buzzed on the nightstand. I picked it up. The message preview said, "Can't wait to see you tonight, baby." I'll be wearing that thing you like, face blowing a kiss. The sender's name was Mira. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. But I took a breath, steadied myself, and did something I never thought I'd do. I went into his messages. Let me pause here for a second because I need you to understand something. This next part, what I found in those messages, it broke something in me that I don't think will ever fully heal. If you need to take a break, if this is hitting too close to home, that's okay. Step away. Breathe. Come back when you're ready. But if you're still with me, if you want to know what happened next, keep listening. Because this is where everything changes. The messages went back almost 2 years. 2 years. Not 2 months. Not a brief mistake. 2 full years of my husband having a whole other relationship while I was home raising our daughter, working my job, keeping our house running, believing we were building a life together. The early messages were flirty, testing the waters. You're so beautiful. I can't stop thinking about you. This is wrong, but it feels so right. Then they got more explicit, more comfortable, planning meetups, hotel rooms. I told Zara I'm working late. She doesn't suspect anything. Sometimes I feel bad, but then I see you and I forget. But what really killed me, what absolutely destroyed me, was when Mira asked him, about 6 months in, "Do you love her? Your wife?" And Ethan wrote back, "I used to, or I thought I did. But now I realize I was just settling. You're what I actually want. Someone young, exciting, who gets me. Zara is so ordinary, so predictable. I'm just staying until Zendaya is older. Then I'll leave." I sat there on our bed, holding his phone, reading those words over and over. Ordinary, predictable, settling, just staying until Zendaya is older. I put the phone back, exactly where I found it. I walked into the bathroom, looked at myself in the mirror. This woman looking back at me, 34 years old, a few smile lines around her eyes, her hair in a simple bun because she'd been too busy that morning to do anything else, was apparently too ordinary for the man she'd pledged her life to. I wanted to scream, wanted to break everything in that bathroom, wanted to march downstairs and drag him out of the shower and demand to know how he could do this to me, to us, to our daughter. But I didn't. I washed my face, took 3 deep breaths, and I made a decision. If Ethan was planning to leave me anyway, if he was just biding his time until it was convenient for him, then I was going to be ready. I was going to protect myself and Zendaya. I was going to make sure that when this marriage ended, it ended on my terms, not his. I called Samantha. "I need a lawyer," I said when she answered. "A good one. The best one you know." There was a pause. Then, "Oh, honey, what did you find?" "Everything," I said. "I found everything." The lawyer's name was Ryan Mitchell, Samantha's cousin, a black woman in her 50s who'd built a reputation for destroying cheating husbands in divorce court. I met with her the next day during my lunch break, sat in her office with its leather chairs and law books and framed degrees on the wall, and I told her everything. She listened without interrupting, took notes, and when I was done, she leaned back in her chair and gave me a look that was equal parts sympathy and steel. "First thing," she said, "do not tell him you know. Do not confront him. Do not let on in any way that you're aware of the affair. We need time to build your case." "Okay," I said. "Second thing, start documenting everything. Take pictures of those credit card statements, those receipts, those messages, if you can access them again. We need evidence." "I can do that." Third thing, Ryan looked me dead in the eye. "This is going to get ugly. If he's been planning to leave you, if he thinks he can just wait until it's convenient and then take off, he's going to be very surprised when you file first. And men like that, they don't like being surprised. They don't like losing control. So prepare yourself for him to come at you with everything he's got. What do you mean? I asked. I mean, he's going to try to paint you as an unfit mother, as someone who's unstable or neglectful or mentally unwell. He's going to try to take Zendaya from you, not because he actually wants primary custody, but because he wants to hurt you and he wants leverage. My stomach dropped. He wouldn't do that. He loves Zendaya. Ryan's expression was gentle but firm. Mrs. Jefferson, Zara, in my 25 years of practice, I've seen men who claim to love their children use them as weapons in divorce proceedings more times than I can count. I need you to be prepared for that possibility. I nodded, even though I felt like I might throw up. But here's the good news, Ryan continued. If we're smart, if we build a solid case and document everything, we can protect you. We can make sure you keep your house, your savings, and custody of your daughter. But you have to trust me, and you have to follow my instructions exactly. Can you do that? Yes, I said. Whatever it takes. Comment below if you've ever had to make a choice like this. If you've ever had to keep smiling while your heart was breaking, keep moving while your world was falling apart. Because that's what the next 3 months were like. I went home every day and pretended everything was normal, cooked dinner, helped Zendaya with homework, asked Ethan about his day, and smiled when he lied to my face. Every Tuesday and Thursday, he'd come home late smelling like perfume that wasn't mine, and I'd have his dinner waiting. Every weekend, he'd find an excuse to disappear for a few hours, and I'd take Zendaya to the park or the library or her grandmother's house. And the whole time, I was taking pictures, saving receipts, forwarding evidence to Ryan, building my case brick by brick. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do, but I did it. For Zendaya, for myself, for the life we deserved. I was planning to file for divorce in mid-March. Ryan had everything ready, all the evidence documented, a strategy for custody, division of assets, everything. We were going to hit Ethan so hard he wouldn't know what happened. But then, in late February, Ethan filed first. I came home from work one evening to find him sitting at the kitchen table with papers spread out in front of him and this expression on his face like he'd just won the lottery. "Zara," he said, "we need to talk." Zendaya was at Samantha's house for a sleepover, thank God, because what happened next, I wouldn't want her to witness. "I'm filing for divorce," he said, and he had the audacity to look relieved about it, like he was finally getting to take off a costume he'd been wearing too long. "What?" I said, even though I wasn't surprised, even though I'd been expecting this. I had to play my part. "I'm not happy," he said. "Haven't been for a while. And I think the best thing for both of us is to end this now before it gets worse." "But," I started. "I've already talked to a lawyer," he interrupted. "And I'm going to be fair, Zara. I'm going to ask for the house because I make more money and I can maintain it. I'm going to ask for most of the savings because, again, I contributed more. And I'm going to ask for full custody of Zendaya." Those last words hit me like a physical blow. "Full custody?" I managed to get out. "She needs stability," he said, and his voice was so calm, so reasonable, like he was talking about what to have for dinner instead of taking my daughter away from me. "And with my income, I can provide that better than you can. You can have visitation, of course, every other weekend. Holidays alternating. Every other weekend. With my own daughter. Ethan, you can't." "I can and I am," he said, standing up. "The papers will be served tomorrow. I've already moved money into a separate account. I suggest you get a lawyer because this is happening with or without your cooperation." He walked out of the kitchen. I stood there, shaking, rage and fear and disbelief coursing through me, so strong I thought I might collapse. But then I grabbed my phone and called Ryan. "He beat us to it," I said when she answered. "He filed first." "Okay," Ryan said, and her voice was steady. "Come." That's actually fine. It doesn't change our strategy. In fact, it might work in our favor. How? I demanded. How is him asking for full custody working in our favor? Because he's showing his hand. He's making demands that are unreasonable and that we can prove are motivated by control and spite, not Zendaya's best interests. We're going to let him dig his own grave. What if the judge believes him? I asked, and my voice cracked. What if I lose her? You're not going to lose her, Ryan said firmly. I promise you, Zara, you are not going to lose your daughter, but I need you to stay strong. Can you do that? I took a breath, then another. Yes, I said, I can do that. The next 3 weeks were a nightmare. Ethan moved out, went to stay with his brother Ryan. Yeah, they have the same name, which confused everyone, while the divorce proceedings started. He hired a lawyer named Paul something or other, this middle-aged white guy with slick back hair, and a suit that probably cost more than my car. And together, they started building their case. Against me, their strategy became clear real fast during the first mediation session. They were going to paint me as an unfit mother. Ethan claimed I was emotionally unstable, that I had episodes where I'd lock myself in the bedroom and refuse to come out, that Zendaya had come to school with dirty clothes and unbrushed hair multiple times because I couldn't be bothered to care for her properly. All lies, every single word. But he said it with such conviction, such detail, that I could see people starting to wonder if maybe there was some truth to it. His lawyer brought up the fact that I'd called out sick from work several times in the past year, said it was evidence of my instability, my inability to handle responsibility. Never mind that those sick days were because I'd had the flu, or because Zendaya had a dentist appointment, or because my mama had surgery and needed someone to drive her home. They made me sound like I was falling apart, like I was the problem. This is what they do, Ryan told me after that first session. They try to make you defend yourself against accusations that aren't true, so you look defensive and guilty even though you haven't done anything wrong. So what do? I asked. You stay calm. You don't react. You let them talk themselves into a corner, and then we present the truth, which is that you are a devoted, loving mother who has been the primary caregiver for Zendaya since birth, who has sacrificed and worked and managed to keep everything running while your husband was off having an affair. Are we going to bring up the affair? I asked. Ryan smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Oh, we're going to bring up the affair, she said. But we're going to wait for exactly the right moment, when it'll do the most damage. But here's the thing nobody tells you about divorce, about watching your marriage end in a series of cold legal meetings and court filings. It's not just about losing your husband. It's about losing the story you told yourself about your life. I'd spent 12 years building a narrative. I met a good man. We fell in love. We got married, had a baby, built a home. We were happy. We were a team. We were everything I'd ever wanted. And now I had to accept that none of that was real. Or maybe it had been real once, and then it stopped being real, and I'd been too busy, or too trusting, or too in love to notice when the shift happened. Either way, the story was over, and I had to write a new one. The hearing was scheduled for mid-April. That gave us about 6 weeks to prepare. 6 weeks of Ryan and her team gathering evidence, interviewing witnesses, building our defense, and our counterattack. They talked to Zendaya's teachers, who confirmed that she was a happy, well-adjusted child who always came to school clean and prepared. They talked to my boss, who vouched for my work ethic and reliability. They talked to Samantha, to my mama, to our neighbors. Everyone painted the same picture. I was a good mother, a good person, someone who'd been blindsided by her husband's betrayal, but who'd kept it together for her daughter's sake. Meanwhile, Ethan kept digging his hole deeper. He claimed I'd threatened him, that I'd told him I'd make sure he never saw Zendaya again if he tried to leave me. Never happened. He claimed I'd been secretly meeting with lawyers for months, planning to ambush him with divorce papers. Okay, that one was technically true. But he didn't know about the affair I'd discovered, didn't know that I had proof of his lies. He painted himself as the victim, the hard-working husband who'd tried to make his marriage work, but whose unstable wife had made it impossible. And his lawyer was good, knew how to make Ethan sound reasonable and concerned rather than controlling and vindictive. By the time we got to the actual hearing, I was terrified. What if the judge believed him? What if I really did lose Zendaya? What if all the evidence in the world wasn't enough? Please, if this story is resonating with you, if you're feeling what I felt, hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, because what happens next in that courtroom, it's something I'll never forget as long as I live. The day of the hearing, I wore a navy blue dress that my mama had helped me pick out. Professional, but not too formal. Conservative, but not trying too hard. I wanted to look like what I was, a working mother who took care of her child and her home and who didn't deserve to have everything ripped away from her. Ryan met me outside the courthouse at 8:30 in the morning. "You ready?" she asked. "No," I said honestly. "But let's do this anyway." The courtroom was smaller than I expected. No jury, just the judge, a black woman in her 60s named Judge Patricia Harmon, and the court reporter and the lawyers, and us. Zendaya was there too. She'd asked to come, even though Ryan had said she didn't have to. My baby girl sat in the back row, wearing a purple dress I'd bought her for Easter, her hair in 2 neat braids that I'd done that morning with shaking hands. She smiled at me when I walked in. This small, brave smile that broke my heart and gave me strength at the same time. I smiled back. Then I took my seat at the defendant's table and tried not to look at Ethan, sitting across the aisle looking confident and calm like he'd already won. Judge Harmon called the hearing to order at 9 a.m. sharp. "We're here today for the dissolution of marriage between Ethan Jefferson and Zara Jefferson," she said, looking down at the papers in front of her, "as well as matters of custody, division of assets, and spousal support. Mr. Morrison, you may present your client's case." Paul Morrison, Ethan's lawyer, stood up, buttoned his suit jacket, launched into his opening statement. He talked about Ethan's commitment to his daughter, his excellent income, his stable lifestyle, his concerns about Zendaya's well-being if she remained primarily with me. "My client loves his wife," Morrison said, and the lie was so smooth I almost believed it myself. "But he loves his daughter more, and he cannot, in good conscience, allow her to remain in an environment where her mother's emotional instability and erratic behavior might put her at risk." Ryan didn't even flinch, just sat there taking notes, waiting for her turn. Morrison called Ethan to the stand. Watching Ethan testify was surreal. He sat up there in his nice suit, looking earnest and concerned, talking about how worried he was about Zendaya, how I'd been distant and cold for months, how I'd stopped taking care of myself and the house, how he'd come home to find Zendaya eating cereal for dinner because I hadn't bothered to cook. "I tried to help," he said, his voice full of this fake sadness that made me want to scream. "I tried to talk to her, to suggest she see someone, maybe a therapist, but she refused, said nothing was wrong, and I watched our daughter suffer because of it." "Objection," Ryan said quietly. "There's no evidence that the child has suffered in any way." "Sustained," Judge Harmon said. "Mr. Morrison, stick to facts your client can substantiate." But the damage was done. The seed was planted. Even if it wasn't allowed as evidence, people had heard it. Morrison went on like this for over an hour. Ethan painting this picture of a marriage that had fallen apart because I couldn't handle the pressure, because I'd withdrawn from him emotionally, because I'd stopped being a good wife and mother. And through it all, I sat there, silent, watching my husband lie about me with a straight face. Finally, Morrison finished. Your Honor, my client is requesting full physical custody of the minor child, with the defendant receiving visitation every other weekend and alternating holidays. He's also requesting the marital home and 70% of the joint savings, given his significantly higher income contribution. Thank you, Mr. Morrison, Judge Harmon said. Ms. Mitchell, you may cross-examine. Ryan stood up, smiled, and went to work. Mr. Jefferson, she said, walking toward the witness stand, you testified that you've been worried about your wife's mental state for several months. Is that correct? Yes, Ethan said. And you said you suggested she see a therapist? I did. When was this? Ethan paused. I don't remember exactly. Sometime in January, I think. You don't remember, Ryan repeated, but you remember that it happened. Yes. Interesting. Because according to phone records, you and your wife had exactly 3 conversations lasting longer than 2 minutes in the entire month of January. And according to her testimony, none of those conversations were about therapy. So, when exactly did this conversation happen? Ethan shifted in his seat. I don't remember the exact date. Let's move on, Ryan said smoothly. You testified that you came home to find your daughter eating cereal for dinner, correct? Yes. And this was evidence, in your view, of Mrs. Jefferson's neglect? Yes. Mr. Jefferson, do you know what your daughter's favorite food is? He blinked. What? Simple question. What is Zendaya's favorite food? I don't see how that's relevant. Answer the question, please. Pizza, I think. Ryan turned to look at me. I shook my head slightly. Actually, it's chicken Alfredo, specifically the way her grandmother makes it. But you wouldn't know that because according to Mrs. Jefferson's testimony and corroborating witnesses, you've attended exactly 2 family dinners at her mother's house in the past year. Now, about that cereal dinner, did it ever occur to you that sometimes children ask for cereal for dinner because that's what they want, that it might have been a choice rather than neglect? Ethan's jaw tightened. She's 10 years old. She shouldn't be making those decisions. So when you were working late, and you've testified you worked late several times a week, who was making decisions about Zendaya's meals? Zara was. Exactly. Mrs. Jefferson was. The same woman you're now claiming is neglectful. The same woman who has been the primary caregiver for your daughter since birth, who takes her to school, picks her up, attends every parent-teacher conference, every doctor's appointment, every dance recital. Where were you during these events, Mr. Jefferson? I was working. Working. Yes. We'll get back to that. Tell me, Mr. Jefferson, have you ever been unfaithful to your wife? The courtroom went dead silent. Ethan's face went blank. Excuse me? It's a yes or no question. Have you ever been unfaithful to your wife during your marriage? Objection, Morrison said, standing up. Relevance. Your Honor, it goes directly to credibility and to Mr. Jefferson's claims about the state of his marriage and his wife's mental health. Judge Harmon looked at Ryan, then at Morrison, then back at Ryan. I'll allow it, she said. Mr. Jefferson, answer the question. Ethan looked at his lawyer, looked at me, looked back at Ryan. No, he said. You've never been unfaithful. No, never. Never. Ryan walked back to our table, picked up a folder, walked back to the witness stand. Then can you explain these? She handed him copies of the credit card statements, the hotel receipts, the jewelry purchases. I watched the color drain from his face. These are charges for a hotel room in downtown Atlanta on February 14th. Valentine's Day. According to Mrs. Jefferson, you told her you were at a business conference that night. Was she there with you? Ethan's mouth opened, closed. I can explain. Yes or no? Was your wife with you at that hotel. No, but, and this charge here, for jewelry from Tiffany's, dated December 20th. Mrs. Jefferson never received any jewelry from you for Christmas that year. Who was that for? I was going to give it to her, but what? You gave it to someone else instead. Morrison stood up again. Your Honor, this is harassment. No, Judge Harmon said, and her voice had an edge to it now. This is cross-examination. Sit down, Mr. Morrison. Mr. Jefferson, answer the question. Ethan looked trapped, cornered, and in that moment I saw him realize that Ryan knew, that I knew, that he was caught. I want to invoke my Fifth Amendment right, he said. The courtroom erupted. Judge Harmon banged her gavel. Order, Mr. Jefferson. This is a civil proceeding, not a criminal one. You don't have Fifth Amendment protections here. Answer the question, or I'll hold you in contempt. Ethan looked at his lawyer desperately. Morrison just sat there, his face red, clearly not expecting this. Ethan started, stopped, started again. Yes. Okay? Yes. I had an affair. But that doesn't mean. How long? Ryan asked. What? How long did this affair last? A few months. Mr. Jefferson, I have text messages going back 2 years. Text messages between you and a woman named Mira Henderson. Text messages where you discuss your wife in derogatory terms, where you plan secret meetups, where you explicitly state that you're only staying in the marriage until it's convenient for you to leave. So I'll ask again, how long? Ethan slumped in his chair. 2 years, he whispered. The courtroom went crazy again. I heard gasps behind me, heard Zendaya make a small sound that broke my heart. Judge Harmon banged her gavel again. And during these 2 years, Ryan continued, her voice calm and relentless, you lied to your wife about where you were. You withdrew money from joint accounts to spend on your mistress. You came home smelling like another woman's perfume and watched your wife make you dinner and ask about your day, and you lied to her face. Is that accurate? I didn't. It wasn't like that. Yes or no, Mr. Jefferson? Yes. And now you're here, asking for full custody of your daughter and claiming that your wife is the unstable one, the unfit parent, when in reality, she's been holding your family together while you've been off living a double life. Is that about right? Ethan didn't answer. I'm done with this witness, Your Honor, Ryan said, walking back to our table. Judge Harmon looked at Ethan with an expression that could freeze water. You may step down, she said. Morrison tried to recover, called a few character witnesses for Ethan, his brother Ryan, a colleague from work. But the damage was done. You could feel it in the room. The energy had shifted completely. Then it was our turn. Ryan called me to the stand first. I walked up there on shaking legs and put my hand on the Bible and swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And then I told my story, not the version Ethan had created, the real version. I talked about being a mother, about the school lunches I packed every morning, and the homework I helped with every night, about the dance recitals and the parent-teacher conferences and the doctor's appointments, about working full-time while managing a household and raising a child, often by myself because Ethan was working late. I talked about finding out about the affair, about the messages on his phone, about standing in my own closet hiding while my husband kissed another woman in my doorway. I talked about the last 12 years of my life and how I'd thought I was building something real and lasting and good, only to discover it was built on lies. And I didn't cry. Not once. I just told the truth. When Morrison cross-examined me, he tried to rattle me, asked about the times I'd called out sick from work, asked about my finances, asked if I'd ever considered that maybe I'd driven Ethan away by being cold or distant. No, I said, looking right at him. I didn't drive him away. He chose to leave in every way except physically. He chose to lie. He chose to betray his family. And now he's choosing to try to take my daughter from me, not because he actually wants her, but because he wants to hurt me. So no, I don't think I drove him to do anything. I think he's just a man who made selfish choices and is now facing consequences. Morrison didn't have much to say after that. Ryan called a few more witnesses. Samantha, who testified about how devoted I was to Zendaya. My mama, who testified about what kind of mother I was, and how Ethan had barely been present in Zendaya's life. Zendaya's teacher, who testified that I'd never missed a conference, and that Zendaya was thriving. Then Ryan stood up and said, "Your Honor, I'd like to call Zendaya Jefferson to the stand." My heart stopped. "What?" I said, turning to Ryan. "We didn't discuss this." "Trust me," Ryan whispered. Judge Harmon looked concerned. "Ms. Mitchell, the child is only 10 years old." "I'm not sure." "Your Honor," Ryan said, "the child has specifically asked to testify. And given that her father is requesting full custody, I believe she has a right to have her voice heard." Judge Harmon looked at Zendaya, sitting in the back row in her purple dress. "Is this true?" she asked. "Do you want to testify?" Zendaya stood up. My baby girl, so small and brave. "Yes, Your Honor," she said. "I have something I need to show you. Something Mom doesn't know about. This is it. This is the moment I told you about at the beginning. If you've been holding your breath, if you've been waiting to see what happens next, stay with me, because what my daughter did in the next 5 minutes changed everything." Zendaya walked up to the front of the courtroom with her phone in her hand. She looked so small standing there in front of the judge's bench. So young. But there was something in her eyes, something determined and fierce, that made her seem older than her years. "Your Honor," she said, her voice steady even though I could see her hands shaking. "I recorded something. Something my dad doesn't know I recorded." Judge Harmon leaned forward. "What kind of recording, sweetheart?" "A video of my dad and his girlfriend." The courtroom went silent. Ethan shot to his feet. "She can't. That's not admissible. She's a child." "Sit down, Mr. Jefferson," Judge Harmon said sharply. "Zendaya, when did you record this video?" 3 weeks ago, Zendaya said. "I was staying at Dad's apartment, the one he moved into after he left us. He told me to stay in my room while he had company over, but I heard them talking. I heard what they said about Mom, and I recorded it. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My daughter had been carrying this secret for 3 weeks, recording evidence while I'd been worrying about how to protect her. She'd been protecting me." "Your Honor," Ryan said, standing up, "I'd like to request that this video be entered into evidence and played for the court." Morrison was on his feet again. "Objection. The child shouldn't have been recording without consent. This is a family court matter, Mr. Morrison," Judge Harmon said. "And if the child has relevant evidence, I'm inclined to hear it. But Zendaya, I need to ask you some questions first. Did anyone tell you to make this recording?" "No, ma'am." "Did your mother know you were going to do this?" "No, ma'am. She still doesn't know. I didn't tell her because I didn't want her to get in trouble or tell me not to do it." Judge Harmon looked at me. I could only shake my head, still in shock. "All right," the judge said. "Bailiff, please set up the courtroom monitors so we can view this evidence. Zendaya, you can sit down now. You did the right thing by bringing this forward." The bailiff connected Zendaya's phone to the courtroom monitors. Those big screens that had been dark the whole hearing suddenly lit up. And then the video started playing. The image was shaky at first. Zendaya must have been holding her phone low, trying to stay hidden. But the audio was crystal clear. Ethan's voice. "Can't believe I have to deal with this custody battle." Like I even want full custody. Have you seen how exhausting she is? A woman's laugh. Mira, then why are you asking for it? Because. Ethan's face came into view on the screen. He was sitting on a couch, drink in hand, looking relaxed and comfortable. Because it's the only way to hurt Zara. She loves that kid more than anything. So if I take Zendaya away from her, she'll be destroyed. And then maybe she'll agree to give me everything else I want, the house, the money, just to get more time with her daughter. My hands flew to my mouth. He was saying it, right there on camera, admitting that he didn't actually want custody, that he was using our daughter as a weapon. The video continued. Mira, that's pretty cold, babe. Ethan, shrugging, she should have been a better wife. Should have been more exciting, more interesting. I got bored. And now she's making this difficult, instead of just accepting that I've moved on. Mira, what if the judge actually gives you custody? You can't handle a kid full-time. Ethan, laughing. Oh, I'm not planning to actually take her. Once Zara caves and gives me what I want, I'll agree to 50-50, or whatever. Hell, she can have primary custody. I don't care. I just need her to think I'm serious about taking Zendaya away. It's leverage. There was a pause on the video. Then Zendaya's voice, small and quiet. Dad. Ethan's face on the screen went white. Zendaya, were you listening? I heard everything. Baby, I didn't mean that's not. You were going to take me away from Mom, just to hurt her, even though you don't actually want me. No, sweetie, that's not what I. The video cut off. The courtroom was dead silent. I was crying. I couldn't help it. Silent tears running down my face because my baby, my sweet, smart, brave baby, had heard her father say he didn't want her, had heard him admit he was using her as a weapon. And she'd recorded it, kept it secret, brought it here to save me. Judge Harmon's face was like stone. Mr. Jefferson, she said, and her voice could have cut glass. Stand up. Ethan stood. He looked sick, pale, and sweating and caught. Your Honor, I can explain. Explain what? Judge Harmon demanded. Explain how you just admitted, on video, that you're using your own daughter as leverage, that you don't actually want custody, but you're asking for it anyway to manipulate your wife? Explain that to me, Mr. Jefferson. I was frustrated. I didn't mean. You didn't mean for anyone to hear you say what you really think. But you said it, and now I've heard it. This entire court has heard it. Judge Harmon looked at Zendaya, and her expression softened. Sweetheart, thank you for being so brave. You can go sit back down now. Zendaya walked past Ethan without looking at him, came straight to me. I pulled her into my arms and held her tight, while she buried her face in my shoulder. I'm sorry, Mom, she whispered. I'm sorry I didn't tell you. Baby, you have nothing to be sorry for. I whispered back. Nothing. You hear me? You saved us. Judge Harmon looked at Morrison. Do you have anything else to present, Counselor? Because I've heard quite enough. Morrison looked defeated. No, Your Honor. Ms. Mitchell. Ryan stood up, and she was smiling. The defense rests, Your Honor. Then let me tell you how this is going to go, Judge Harmon said, looking directly at Ethan. Mr. Jefferson, I have been a family court judge for 23 years. I have seen a lot of things in this courtroom, but I have never, in all my years on this bench, seen someone so blatantly and callously use their own child as a weapon in divorce proceedings. She picked up her gavel. The request for full custody is denied. Mrs. Jefferson will retain primary physical custody of the minor child, with standard visitation for Mr. Jefferson on alternating weekends, pending a review by a child psychologist to ensure the child feels safe and comfortable with those arrangements. Ethan's face crumbled. The marital home will remain with Mrs. Jefferson as she has been the primary caregiver and should maintain stability for the child. The joint savings will be split 60-40 in favor of Mrs. Jefferson, given the evidence of Mr. Jefferson's financial infidelity. Mr. Jefferson will pay child support in an amount to be determined based on the state guidelines. Bang. The gavel came down. This hearing is concluded, Mr. Jefferson. I suggest you use your visitation time to reflect on what kind of father you want to be. Because right now, based on what I've seen here today, you're failing that child. Court is adjourned. It was over. Just like that. 3 months of fear and fighting and lies. And it was over in one gavel strike. I sat there holding Zendaya, crying into her hair, while Ryan gathered up our papers and Ethan and his lawyer walked out without looking back. We'd won. Not just the custody battle. Not just the house and the money. We'd won our lives back. The weeks after the hearing were strange. Good, but strange. Zendaya and I moved through the house like we were getting to know it all over again. Like we were reclaiming it from the ghost of the life we used to live there. We repainted her room. She picked this beautiful lavender color that she'd wanted for years, but Ethan had always said was too much. We painted it together one weekend, getting more paint on ourselves than the walls, laughing until our sides hurt. We rearranged the living room, got rid of the couch Ethan had insisted on buying, this big leather thing that was uncomfortable and cold, and replaced it with something soft and cozy where Zendaya and I could curl up together to watch movies. We started having dinner at the kitchen table again, instead of in front of the TV, started talking about our days, really talking without having to worry about someone being irritated or distracted. It felt like breathing for the first time in years. Ethan took his first visitation weekend 2 weeks after the hearing. I won't lie, it was hard to let Zendaya go with him. Hard to watch her get in his car with her overnight bag, knowing what he'd said about her, knowing how he'd tried to use her. But Zendaya was braver than I was. "It's okay, Mom," she said when she saw my face. "He's still my dad, and I think he knows he messed up. Maybe this is his chance to do better." My baby girl, always seeing the good in people even when they don't deserve it. She came back Sunday night, full of stories about the aquarium they'd visited and the pizza they'd had for dinner. Said Ethan had apologized to her. Said he was going to try to be better. I didn't know if I believed it. Didn't know if he was capable of changing. But if Zendaya wanted to give him a chance, I wasn't going to stop her. That was her relationship with her father, and she had to navigate it in her own way. All I could do was be there for her, let her know she was loved and safe, and that no matter what, I had her back, just like she'd had mine. Samantha threw me a divorce party a month after the hearing. Nothing fancy, just her and me and my mama and a few close friends sitting in Samantha's backyard drinking wine and eating good food and laughing about ridiculous things. To Zara, Samantha said, raising her glass, who survived a lying, cheating, manipulative husband and came out on top. To Zara, everyone echoed. I smiled, felt the warmth of the wine and the summer evening and these women who'd stood by me through everything. "Thank you," I said. "All of you. I couldn't have done this without you." "Yes, you could have," my mama said, squeezing my hand. "You're stronger than you know, baby. You always have been." Maybe she was right. Maybe I'd always had that strength inside me, just waiting for the moment I'd need to use it. Or maybe I'd grown it through necessity, through being tested and pushed to my limits and finding out I could survive. Either way, I was still here, still standing, still fighting for myself and my daughter. And that was enough. I saw Ethan one more time after the hearing, about 2 months later. He showed up at the house to drop Zendaya off after a visit. Usually he just let her run inside and drove off, but this time he got out of the car. "Zara," he said, "can I talk to you for a minute?" I looked at Zendaya. She nodded, grabbed her bag, and went inside. Make it quick, I said. He stood there on my driveway. My driveway, not ours anymore, and he looked different. Smaller somehow. Tired. I wanted to apologize, he said. I didn't say anything. Just waited. For everything. For the affair. For the lies. For what I tried to do in court. For all of it. You didn't deserve any of that. No, I agreed. I didn't. I was selfish. I was cruel. And I hurt you and Zendaya in ways I can never take back. He paused. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I know I was wrong. I looked at him. This man I'd spent 12 years of my life with. This man I'd loved and trusted and built a family with. And I felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. No lingering love or hurt or anything. Just nothing. He was a stranger standing in my driveway. Someone I used to know. Okay, I said. I appreciate you saying that. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have dinner to make. I turned and walked toward my house. Zara, he called after me. I stopped, looked back. I really did love you once, he said. I need you to know that. I studied him for a moment. Maybe you did, I said, but it wasn't enough. And that's on you, not me. Then I went inside and closed the door. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I got a promotion at work. Not a huge one. I went from administrative coordinator to program manager, but it came with a raise and more responsibility and the feeling that I was building something for myself. For me and Zendaya. I started taking better care of myself. Joined a gym with Samantha. Got my hair done regularly. Bought clothes that made me feel good instead of just practical. Not because I was trying to prove anything to Ethan or to anyone else. Just because I deserved it. I deserved to feel good in my own skin. To look in the mirror and like what I saw. To remember that I was more than just a wife or a mother or someone's ex. I was Zara, and I was still here. Zendaya thrived. She joined the school's robotics club, made the honor roll, started talking about wanting to be an engineer when she grew up. She had her moments, times when she'd get quiet, and I knew she was thinking about the divorce, about her dad, about everything that had happened. But we talked through it. I made sure she knew she could tell me anything, feel anything, and I'd be there. Mom, she said one night while we were doing dishes together, do you think you'll ever get married again? I paused, hands in the soapy water. I don't know, baby, I said honestly. Maybe someday, if I meet the right person, but I'm not looking for that right now. Right now, I'm just focused on us, on building the life we want. Good, she said, because I like it being just us. We're pretty great. I smiled, pulled her into a hug, getting soap bubbles on her shirt. Yeah, I said, we really are. A year after the divorce, I did something I'd been thinking about for months. I went back to school, started taking online classes toward a master's degree in nonprofit management. Something I'd always wanted to do, but had put off because there was never time, never money, never the right moment. Well, now was the right moment. I was building a new life. Might as well build the one I actually wanted. Samantha laughed when I told her, look at you getting degrees and promotions and living your best life. Ethan is somewhere kicking himself. I don't care what Ethan is doing. I said, and I meant it. He was in the past, a chapter of my life that was closed. I was writing new chapters now. It's been 3 years since that day in court. 3 years since Zendaya played that video and the judge brought her gavel down and our whole lives changed. Zendaya is 13 now, taller than me, beautiful and smart, and so much braver than I ever was at her age. She still sees her dad on weekends. And I think they found a decent rhythm. He's not perfect, far from it, but he's trying. And Zendaya has learned to set boundaries with him, to speak up when something bothers her. She's going to be okay. Better than okay. As for me, I'm 37 years old, single, working a job I love, pursuing a degree that excites me. I bought myself a little used car last year. Nothing fancy, but it's mine, paid for with my own money. I have friends who lift me up and family who has my back and a daughter who makes me proud every single day. Some nights I sit on my porch, the porch of my house, the one I fought for and won, and I think about everything that happened, about how I almost lost it all, about how my daughter saved us, about how I survived something I never thought I'd have to survive. And I feel grateful, not for the pain, not for the betrayal or the lies or the fear, but for what came after, for discovering I was stronger than I knew, for learning that I could stand on my own, for finding out that sometimes the worst day of your life leads to the best chapter. If you're listening to this and you're going through something similar, let me tell you something. You're going to be okay. I know it doesn't feel like it right now. I know it feels like your world is ending and you'll never be whole again. And how are you supposed to survive this? But you will. You're stronger than you think, braver than you know. And when you come out the other side, and you will come out the other side, you're going to look back and realize that you didn't just survive. You grew. You changed. You became someone new. Someone who knows her worth. Someone who won't settle for less than she deserves. Someone who can stand in her own truth and say, I made it. My name is Zara Jefferson. I'm 37 years old, and this is my story. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here with me through every twist and turn. If this story touched you, if it resonated with you, if it helped you feel less alone, please share it. Leave a comment telling me where you're from, what part of the story spoke to you. Subscribe so you don't miss future stories. And most importantly, remember that you're not alone. We're all out here, fighting our battles, surviving our worst days, and coming out stronger. Together. Until next time, take care of yourselves. And never forget, you deserve better than ordinary. You deserve extraordinary.